Oh, yeah. Yeah, oh, yeah. Everything gonna be all right this morning. Oh, yeah. 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 Now, when I was a young boy, at the age of 5, my mother said I'm gonna be the greatest man alive. But now I'm a man. I passed 21. I won't believe me, baby. I have lots of fun. I'm a man. I spell him A-child in that rebel thing name. Nobby, oh child, why that mean Irish boy? I'm a man. I'm a full-grown man. I'm a man. I'm a natural born lover thing. I'm a man. I'm a rolling stone. I'm a man. I'm a hoochie coochie man. Sitting on the outside, just me and my mate. Y'all know I'm late to moon, honey. About 2 hours late. Wasn't that a man? I spell him A-child in that rubber band man. Dobby! Oh, child. Why that mean Irish boy? Me, I'm a full-grown man. Me, I'm a natural born lover man. Me, I'm a rolling stone. Me, I'm a natural born lover man. Me, I'm a hoochie coochie man. Yay, yay, yeah, yeah, yeah. The line I shoot that will never miss. When I make love to a girl, she can't resist. I think I go down to Old Castle Stew. I'm gonna bring back the second cousin. That's little John the Conqueror. Oh, you little girl, setting out that line. I can make love to you, honey, in 5 minutes time. Ain't that a man? I spell him A-child. Yeah. And that rebel thing man. Lobby. Oh, child. Why that mean Irish boy? Man, a full-grown man. Man, I'm a natural born lover man. Man, I'm a rolling stone. Man, I'm a hoochie coochie man. Well,
Hey, hey, hey. Hi, guys. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the late show. It's going to be a long night tonight. I have this round of 2 hours on my own where I'll be talking to you about some really exquisite watches from the Monaco Legend Group auction that we started sifting through, that we started making our way through just last night. We also had a look at that very special preview and party they organized in Milan, where they brought together about 1518s. 1518, of course, is the first serially produced perpetual calendar chronograph in history. It is, in a way, definitive of Patek in this era. Most certainly in the Stern era that still continues, that is still with us. But in many ways, it's also quite resonant with how what we came to know as high horology developed. So it's an important reference that resonates much, much beyond Patek Philippe as a brand, or even about that particular complication, right? It was quite a feat at the time in 1941 when Patek actually managed to squeeze in that kind of complication, a perpetual calendar, which they had introduced in 1940, and a chronograph into the case of a beautiful wristwatch, right around 35 millimeter size. So beautiful watches, beautiful technical achievement, and that whole spread we saw of the 15 pieces. And I want to just take another look at that scene. That was basically more than 20% of all Patek 1580s that ever exist, because there are about 281 1518 references accounted for. You know, there might be one or two more, there might be one or two less, who knows where these things have gone. But of those watches, 15 of them were in the same room and were presented on this beautiful spread, Davide Parmigiani tray. Of course, Davide Parmigiani, the famous Italian dealer, is a partner, and if I'm correct, also the president of Monaco Legend Group, which is a collaboration he has with Claude Cohen. Right, so that's how we had started last night, and we started going through some of the beautiful pieces that they were auctioning off there, some that were even already withdrawn, which is always a source of intrigue. I wanted to talk yesterday about Cartier from a viewpoint of design, and this is, I think, a nice segue, because when my friend Swiss jumped on and he was in a way complaining about this relatively obscure Patek Nautilus reference 3710 that is sometimes called the Comet. He was complaining about certain elements of design, you know, how it had these Roman numerals, but everything cramped sort of on the part of 9 o'clock, and really having all this empty space at 3 o'clock. And I just quipped saying, hey, you know, because he was saying Cartier can make it, why can't Patek? And I simply said, Patek is a watchmaker, Cartier is a designer. Of course, that's an absurdly simplistic way of putting things, but one has to appreciate the fact that Cartier, that has over time regained its place as a tastemaker in watches, of course, was always a brand that distinguished itself in designing jewelry. Now, when you check the industry reports, right, the Morgan Stanley report, for example, that we are going to examine with the professor in a little more than 2 hours, you you can see last year was a major coup for Cartier, and in terms of both the percentage of sales and the financial value that amounts to, they have basically overtaken Omega, which was the perpetual runners-up after Rolex. And Cartier now is basically the second best-selling watchmaker out of Switzerland, which caught a lot of people by surprise and made some people at least think that this was an overnight success, that this was something that Cartier or Richemont just engineered 2-3 years ago, or perhaps even last year. That couldn't be further from truth. I will introduce two perspectives to understand the development of serious watchmaking in Cartier, and how they managed to combine both that particular heritage and, of course, their well-established, solidified legacy in designing pieces of jewelry, and catapulted themselves to that second place in the world of watchmaking. And you have to realize, of course, you cannot overtake Rolex, right? Rolex basically, in terms of its sales, in terms of the amount of sales, the financial worth of sales, is basically as large as the next 5 out of the top 10, right? So that there's a huge precipice between Rolex and everyone else. That being said, it's still, of course, a major feat for Cartier to occupy, well, for that reason, in fact, it's a major feat for Cartier to occupy that second place. But Cartier is a company, of course, that was held under family ownership, I think, until 60s, I want to say 64. And that's when Richemont gained control of Cartier. So unlike a lot of these watchmakers that the Richemont Group owns now, which were mostly integrated into the company in year 2000, Cartier has been part of that group for quite some time. So it's not like Richemont just came in and reconfigured a few things and that produced an overnight result. The second thing is, of course, that Cartier was going through the process that, let's say, Bulgari has gone through perhaps in the last decade or so, right? Where LVMH, in a very conscious and concerted effort, does everything possible to put Bulgari forward, to launch them forward as a serious watchmaker. But to mixed success. I'm a huge fan of Bulgari as a brand, and I'm a great fan of their watches, especially the Octo Finissimo and the Serpenti, of course. But that being said, with Cartier, they had that kind of moment. They had that kind of decade at the turn of the century, right? With what is now abbreviated as CPCP, right? Cartier Paris Collection Privée, right? That was from 1998 to 2008, where they had this plan of reestablishing Cartier as a serious horological house by introducing these re-releases and reiterations of their classic designs from the archives and combining them with the kinds of horological expertise that they had within Richemont and beyond, right? So, of course, they had previously collaborated in so many different ways with Gégé Lecoutre, which joined Richemont, of course, in 2000. But this project, of course, reached beyond JLC and included major players such as Renault et Papy, which is now basically the so-called advanced research division of Audemars Piguet, right? That's where they focus on inventing and experimenting with their technical expertise and legacy. They have also collaborated, and I'm talking about Cartier again, in that period of CPCP from 1998 to 2008, with many watchmakers that we today recognize as spearheading the wave of independence that seem to have defined our era, right? That have now gained a certain quote-unquote mainstream recognition within the world of horology, and in a certain sense also beyond. And the reason I focus about the Cartier Tortue Monopusher today is connected to that. I will try to explain to you what makes especially this model so desirable to many. And I will just merely highlight, and the prices have already started going up and up until they dropped quite significantly since March. So it seems about the right moment, right? If you're in the market for a watch in this segment, which is quite a hefty price tag, right? We're talking about roughly $40,000 or more. This might be an interesting moment to pick up a watch like this. Of course, there are more or less desirable models among them. Everyone wants the one that's rendered in platinum with that dial with blue accents. Sure enough, it's a gorgeous watch, and it is even more rare. But when it comes to the entire series, again, you're talking about a decade of production roughly, and you're talking about a couple of thousand pieces at most, which are not really produced in any serial manner right now, right? So limited series, something that carries the CPCP brand in a way, something that carries the Cartier Paris Collection Privée stamp of approval, especially when it comes in full set. Of course, you have all the documents and presentation boxes that highlight that particular heritage. And you are getting a watch that's in and of itself also a horological marvel, right? We have mentioned that Cartier focused in this period from 1998 to 2008 in the CPCP era in blending together their iconic designs from the archive with technological, i.e. technical, really, innovation from these resources in and outside of Richemont, and ultimately putting everything in one neat, modernized, and elegantly executed package. A lot of the dials have really exceptional guillochage on them, you can see that sort of rosette work that somehow radiates from the middle of the design all over. The way that the numerals are placed, of course, is extremely balanced. They are elongated in the right spots, quite straight in others. You have that characteristic hidden signature at 7 o'clock, right, where the V of the Roman numeral 7 is rendered or completed with Cartier. You have the beautiful Breguet hands, and all the hands really that are heat blued and that echo with the sapphire that is put on the crown. And you have, of course, the classic design of the Tortue, which was designed in 1912. Hey, Mike David, welcome. And St. Peter, welcome, welcome, welcome. So nice to see you. So nice to see you both. So Tortue, as Tortue, a pad turtle with legs, as you would say in French, was designed in 1912. It was one of the first watch designs of Cartier, basically before Tank, but after Santos, which by many accounts is first serially produced, first purposely produced wristwatch for men. You have the Tortue as a design that came out in 1912. So positively ancient if you look at the history of modern horology and design of wristwatches. That's a very early design. But it's a shape that really, it's a case shape, case design that really came into its own in 1920, where it was executed in this monopusher chronograph version. So Cartier Monopusher Tortue came out in 1920s. And then for the longest time, Cartier didn't have anything like that in that combination of design and complication in their catalog, at least not in the Tortue case. And one of the partners that they were collaborating with in terms of these horological houses and workshops was an organization that called itself Technique Horlogère Appliquée. So applied horological techniques, right? And it was basically a renegade band of 3 watchmakers and maybe some others that I won't be able to mention, that we today recognize at the vanguard of independent watchmaking. You had François Paul Jean, you had Denis Flageolet. Flageolet is of course head of de Bethune today, and you also had Vianney Alter. So you had these 3 people in THA who were collaborating with Cartier for the private collection of Cartier Paris, CPCP. And as the story goes, it was actually Flageolet and F.P. Jean who went to Cartier to propose the revival of this watch, right? Hey, since you're dipping into the archives and you want to bring out something horologically exciting, why not the monopusher chronograph, and why not that in a Tortue case and also in an enlarged Tank case? Those are even more rare and even more inaccessible and unapproachable and just simply too much money. But the Tortue still somehow is over there in the horizon, right? So they basically came up with a modernized version of the Tortue, much enlarged case, carrying that signature guillochage, signature engine turned decorated work of the CPCP collection on the dial. The case, of course, is quite enlarged compared to the 1920s version. It measures 34 millimeters by 43, whereas the 1920s version was 26 by 35. The modern version is also slightly thicker with a larger bezel. So it's a more present watch in a way. It has a markedly Cartier crown that protrudes out of the case, and that does carry that cabochon, whereas the 1920s version was quite a flat crown that sat neatly and latched onto the case. And of course, we know already how things have changed. This version of the Tortue, of course, had an exhibition case back, right? So it was in a way a sapphire sandwich where you could see some of the work that was done on the movement. Once again, as I mentioned before, looking into the CPCP watches, of course, you have that doubled wishbone Cartier symbol etched onto the bridges. So it's not maybe that kind of special decoration at first sight, but when you look at the anglage, when you look at basically the edges of those bridges in a better close-up shot, of course, you'll see the kind of aesthetic achievement realized in the decoration of these movements as well. Just a wonderful shape of the case, curved in just the right fashion to sit beautifully on the wrist. It existed in various metals. The one that I have on the screen right now is a pink gold version. Just a watch that has a lot of deco echo, so to speak, a lot of that particular approach to modernist design, but revived in a way, much in the way of the Reverso Grand Taille, right? Much in the way of the enlarged and modernized case of the Reverso. Here you have a version of the Cartier Tortue that is made for the 21st century rather than the first quarter of the 20th. So something that is a beautiful aesthetic object, to be sure, but certainly a watch that also in the monopusher execution of the chronograph function has that sort of thoroughly 20th century technically advanced chronograph feel. It's always harder to execute the chronograph function in one neat button, right? It's so much easier to have just the start, stop, and reset pushers next to the crown. That's just a more quote unquote facile execution. The monopusher design is a little harder, and of course, to have everything on the crown complicates things just a little bit more. But it's of course not an insurmountable task for such masters of modern watchmaking as François Paul Jaune Denis Flagerier, and Vianney Alter. Although in Flageolier's account, Vianney Alter had not yet joined them in this effort, so he was perhaps not involved in the revival of the Cartier Tortue Monopusher chronograph. But these have become really desirable, have basically ridden on the wave of this Cartier revival as a horological house in a more broader sense, have attracted a lot of interest being part of the CPCP collection. They have also immense value in being associated with the proper names of at least 3 premier indie watchmakers today. Of course, the fact that they are limited and scarcely available adds to that value as well. And for those Cartier fans among us, that particular period is now starting to pay off, right? Of course, it matters that they revived the Santos in a different way, made it sportier. Of course, it matters that they have that quick release functions for the straps and bracelets that make things much more practical, much more appealing to the average person, much sportier again, and much more utilitarian for daily use. All these things, of course, matter. All these more recent gradual advancements and the little things that Cartier has done, of course, they matter. But I think ultimately it is the kind of work and the kind of blend of aesthetic vision, artistic legacy, and horological innovation that they achieved in the CPCP era that is just beginning to pay off for Cartier. So to highlight that, I chose this particular model to present on today, the Cartier Tortue Monopusher. It is a beautiful aesthetic object, but it is also something that offers a story that is horologically compelling, that is executed in beautiful technical detail, and finally that resonates with horological story in the 20th century and propels the brand forward in a meaningful way, connecting it with the more recent resurgence of independent watchmaking. So that's Cartier Tortue for you. That's why a lot of these high rollers on Instagram and on horological media love this watch. Don't sleep on it if you are in that segment. If you're looking for a watch that's around $40,000, don't sleep on it. They might fall just a little bit more, but if you can find a good deal and if you can actually afford something like this, they won't be here for long. Peeping Time, nice to see you. That Cartier is amazing. I love the dial. Yeah, the guillochage, the engine turn decoration on the dial is incredible. The picture quality is not that great, so I do apologize. But we are still fine-tuning things here. We are still streamlining. And I'm coming really strong in a very short period of time. We are advancing quite well. On that note, if you have been enjoying this presentation and if you have been learning from it, please hit the like button. It matters a great deal. It really makes all the difference for a small channel. For me, it gives me that little bit more, pardon me, of an exposure. Subscribe if you are just stumbling upon this presentation. I'm here with Watch Talk on a daily basis. In fact, today is a double shift, as I mentioned. We are going to mostly talk about some very special watches for another hour and 20 minutes, going through the Monaco Legend auction that just had a preview in Milano and is now going to take place on October 22nd and 23rd in Monaco. And then after a short break of half an hour, I will also be with you and with the professor to talk about the Morgan Stanley report on the watch industry for the past year, 2021. And we are already highlighting, of course, that Cartier made that stride and is now occupying the second position in terms of watch brands out of Switzerland that generate this kind of value, that generate these kinds of sales. By the way, just so you know, I have pinned the link there, and I mean it. Just like my friend Swiss and the professor joined me more randomly earlier last night. Always feel free to click the link. I'm gonna put it there again, and jump on. You're always welcome to join this conversation. John D says this is a gorgeous watch. We were just talking about the Cartier Tortue Monopusher chronograph in its modern revival. I think it's one of the most beautiful watches ever. But then again, I am a child of the 90s. That's when I came of age. And in the 90s, that 20s revival was all the rage, right? The roaring 20s were actually back much earlier, and in the 90s you had, of course, Frank Müller. That was more or less the brand of watch to wear. Now I never owned one. I never really came even close to owning one, but I've always been quite taken by that tonneau case shape. So for me, an even more elegant execution of it in the Cartier classic design that was already there in 1912. For me, that's just perfection. And I know it's an acquired taste, but hey, I think it is really a gorgeous watch. St. Peter says the Tortue is an essential model line in any good Cartier collection. Hey, I know you started with the Américain, and you are trying to build a Cartier collection as well. It's really, that could be the crown on the jewel of a Cartier collection, right? To have the Tortue and to have it in that monopusher chronograph configuration, that would be amazing. Price will go to the moon. John D says Cartier does soft curves and elegant case shapes as good as anyone. You might even say better than everyone else. I completely agree. Bezel says lovely, lovely timepiece. Hey, we're saying such good things about it, so let's pull it up once again. This is the Cartier Tortue monopusher chronograph. John Chan says, hello from Singapore. Hello, man. It's nice to see you. Was this movement only exclusive to Cartier? How many of these CPCP Tortu Monopusher watches were produced? Nick Fox has once mentioned that they must have made about 200 per year. And that's a decade of CPCP. That's about 2,000 watches for you. If we are talking about the specific movement, I think it's a movement that THA designed for Cartier. It is, I want to say it's like 045 MC, the movement is called. Look, Monopusher chronograph, it's an important execution, but it's not so absolutely rare that it's exclusive to Cartier, right? You know, for example, that I'm a huge fan of Habring 2 on this channel, and basically every single chronograph that Habring executes in their lineup is a monopusher. So let's keep that in mind. Monopusher chronographs are not exclusive. Also, if you go into the vintage sphere, there's a lot of monopusher chronographs from mid-century, let's say 50s, very roughly, where you have these mil-spec and military issued chronograph watches, like the Lemonia chronographs that were issued for the Royal Air Forces, that have the monopusher configuration. And of course, that is extremely practical in a military setting, in a utilitarian setting, right? Where you don't have to mess with a number of different buttons. You know, you can just focus on one whenever you actually need to operate your chronograph. So if you were asking about that, I can't exactly tell you if that specific movement 045 MC is shared or given to anyone else. It was developed by Technique Horlogère Appliquée, which is to say F.B. Jean, Denis Flageolet, and Vianney Alter. Whether they used it, the very same caliber, in their own watches later, or whether they sourced it for someone else, that I don't know. What I can tell you again is, in addition to the 2,000, roughly 2,000 Tortue Monopusher chronographs that were produced, Cartier also produced about 200 tank Monopusher chronographs in the same time period. Much more limited, much more rare. And for that reason, they go for exorbitant amounts of money. But I guess if you're a serious Cartier collector, that can also be an absolute holy grail. Of course, you know, when I think of the tank, I think of something positively diminutive, very dressy, small dress watch. Love it. It's an almost different shape. Let me pull it up for you. So for me, it doesn't give me the same kind of pleasure to look at as the Tortue does. But hey, these things are entirely subjective. But I find it very, very rectangular, which doesn't say much. Perhaps you will say immediately, the minute you see it, John, you'll say, but this is exactly what I want, right? So this is the same movement inside rectangular execution of the tank, produced also as part of the CPCP collection. It's out there. They're much more rare. About one tank monopusher chronograph for every 10 Tortue monopusher chronograph, but they're available. And if it strikes your fancy, if it tickles your pickle, there we go. This is before the real Cartier mania kicked in, already exactly a year ago. But even then, it's absolutely shattered to bits the ceiling of that estimate, and went for basically $90,000. You can get the Tortue for a fraction of that price. Just saying. And this is the presentation, by the way, of those CPCP pieces, you know, with all the documentation, of course, the beautiful deep red box, some further promotional material with this positively ancient contraption that we once called the compact disc, not so compact anymore, but an interesting ephemera. All right. Well, thank you for asking that question, John, actually, because it allowed me to elaborate it a little more. Mookie, nice to see you, man. Thank you for hitting the like button. It matters a lot, as I said. Peeping Time, thank you for the upvote as well. You are a dream, man. Thank you so much. John D says, the Cartier Roadster took the lines of the Tortue and added some very interesting design touches. I very much like this case shape as well. I'm not against it. I'm not against it. Roadster is not necessarily my favorite model. But look, I mean, I think, again, I keep saying this. Any serious horological brand is lucky enough to have one icon, right? Audemars Piguet has the Royal Oak. Gégé Lecoutre has the Reverso. Rolex is, of course, the exception, right? They have an entire catalog of icons. Like them or hate them, everything has its moment, and they keep coming back also, since they are almost untouched, basically timeless. But Cartier has at least two serious icons, right? You have the tank in all its different iterations, and you have the Santos, which again is not only one of the first wristwatches made for men, if not the very first. I don't need to rehearse the story again. But it's also, through the years, has become, in all its variations, one of the most appealing unisex watches ever. So Cartier already has two strongholds in Tank and Santos. You can easily add to this, depending on your personal taste, the Tortue, the Pasha, the Roadster, Ballon Bleu. It's an entire lineup of beautiful designs, right? Some of which I can only appreciate from a safe distance, by all means. I don't have any strong feelings. Some others that I absolutely adore, right? Between the Tortue, Tank, and Santos, I love Cartier designs. And as you know, everyone goes crazy about Gérald Janta designs. Cartier Pasha is his design, for example. So keep that in mind in some back corner, right? It might never have the mainstream appeal of a Royal Oak or of a Nautilus or even a Mickey Mouse watch, but that's also Gérald Janta design. Daytona forever. Thank you for watching. I appreciate you. Peeping Time says, this is nice too, about that tank monopusher we were just examining. Where did it go? Again, I'm not against it. I much prefer the Tortue, but this is a tank, and it's a very rectangular, symmetrical tank as well. So I'm not against it. Hawkeye says, I like your channel. Your serious tone and analysis is refreshing. You're making me blush, man. Thank you. Thank you. Those are very nice words. You're too kind. St. Peter says Cartier has like 10 icons. Yes, to the fans of the brand, it's innumerable, right? But we can at least recognize that they have two case shapes that are almost immediately recognizable, right? Someone sees a Submariner, says that's a Rolex, right? Someone sees a tank, they say that's a Cartier, or a Santos, that's a Cartier. Someone sees the Reverso, and at most they can say, isn't it that watch that was made for polo players or something? Again, I'm a huge fanboy of JLC, but even that case is not so universally recognizable, right? Cartier has at least two. It is what it is. It's a very underrated brand, but they were underrated. Now it's a little hollow to say that they're underrated. Everyone has caught on to Cartier now. It has a lot of haters, but I think those who know, those who have been in the know, recognize how it is. John D says, the Roadster has been one of my daily wear watches for a decade. Good on you, man. Wear it in even better health and wealth. And it's far better on the wrist than in picks or the case. I think that goes for most watches. And please don't take that as undermining what you're saying there. But I feel like for the most part, we form these opinions looking at photographs and pictures, and sometimes we don't even form these opinions, right? We just inherit them or absorb them from our environment, and they become cliches, they become received wisdom, and we don't think about it, and we don't even try on some of these watches just because, I can't be wearing that. And really, you are really keeping yourself from enjoying certain kinds of watches, opening your eyes to different kinds of design. I think some people are robbing themselves of that opportunity of experiencing another brand, another kind of design, a non-round case shape, because it's always about Rolex and Patek, right? We need to push the envelope just a little bit. And again, guys, we're not getting too adventurous here. Cartier has been on the rise, so it's not. I'm not a diviner, but to guess, to estimate that their stock will continue to rise, it's not a fool's errand. It's a pretty safe bet. Peeping Time compliments John. I've only recently started appreciating Cartier, and John Wick says, very nice. John Chan says, thanks for your analysis and reply to my inquiry. It's a pleasure, man. That's what this platform is for, and that's why I am here. Hit the like button if you want to express your gratitude. I genuinely appreciate you. Don't forget the iconic Crash Model 2, but that model is beyond reach for all but the very wealthy. I'm not really forgetting, John, but I guess I've simply avoided it because of what you said, right? That's really so limited and so niche that when I'm talking about icons, which is a word that's overused and cheapened, to be sure, to me, the Crash can't be an icon because it's not available. It's not. Forget about the fact that it's a design that's so out there and so unconventional that it's hard to put it on the mainstream. The fact that the example sells for millions now, I cannot utter it in the same sentence as the regular production model of Santos, these more limited models of the private collection of Cartier Paris, which are still well under $100,000, whereas Crash is the realm of millions, right? Daytona Forever says, upvote, thank you. John D says, over the summer, I found a Pasha that needed to come home with me. Far more fascinating than I expected. It has lots of wrist presence and a legacy. Absolutely. I wanted to actually Um, let me see. There is a Pasha in this auction among many Cartiers that we are just going to experience now. But why not start with that now that you said Pasha? Um, there are many interesting Pashas. Wait a second. Are they not all loaded, perhaps? Let me see. Or maybe the image is kind of blended in my head because it was almost sure. Or was that just on someone's wrist in the yeah, I think it was on someone's wrist in that preview. Let me just put on John Goldberger's Instagram because he was wearing this gorgeous platinum Pasha perpetual calendar. Jesus Christ. I mean, what an incredible watch. Such a well balanced design in this particular execution of the Pasha. You have, of course, perpetual calendar, prestige complication. Um, the moon phase is really pretty and somehow so holistically part of the design itself, right at that 12 o'clock, somehow resonating with the shape of the watch. And of course, you're talking about the full platinum watch on matching beads of rice bracelets, and those lozenge hands, just a very appealing neo-vintage package of Gérard Janta design. I thought it was part of the auction, but I suppose not. I don't think it's selling on the auction, but it is right here on John Goldberger's wrist. And just a quick attention to detail in terms of style. This is why Italian men love their Oxford shirts. Look at that simple but beautiful texture there. Just the right amount of color and gorgeous texture. Oxford cloth button-down shirt can cover all sorts of bases, and Goldberger, of course, is a master of style in so many different ways. So once again, he's showing us how it's really done. That's a Cartier Pasha in full platinum and with a perpetual calendar complication. Cartier has grown on me. John D says, Zan says, I would say there's a difference between an icon and a halo product. That's a very nice distinction, Zan. Perhaps Crash is in that realm. Like a full platinum watch by one of these great houses probably is in that realm as well, because again, it's practically inaccessible for most people, right? Let's say like a platinum Patek Philippe World Time on a matching bracelet. That to me cannot be an icon. It is an extremely desirable piece. It is a beautiful piece. But when I think of Patek World Time as an icon, I would probably have to settle with a more accessible reference. Again, not to say that any of these watches are really can be afforded on a middle class budget, but I would say something like Patek World Time 5130, right? Whereas Patek World Time in platinum with the matching bracelets, which is, I want to say 5131p, I think. That is, that's a halo product, as you put it. Perhaps a custom order crash is possible for someone with a close connection to the brand. I don't know. Look, George Kramer has recently published a piece on Cartier custom orders or made-to-order watches in general. I'm not sure if sky is the limit. From what I could understand from that piece, they're actually quite accommodating when it comes to choosing a production model and asking them some adjustments, shifts in this cosmetic detail or that. But something like crash, not really sure. Not really sure, but you know, it is what it is. But yeah, for a special client, perhaps. Mookie says, hey, Zan, are Cartier movements COSC certified? Not, I don't think universally. Not many brands actually have COSC certification applied universally, you know? They pretend or they present their own credentials, their own certifications a lot of times, right? Gégé Lecoultre has master control, Patek Philippe has the Patek Philippe seal, etc. Omega has Metas that Tudor uses in that Black Bay ceramic. There are some in-house and other kinds of standards that are not necessarily universal or universally applied through the product line. I don't think that's the case with Cartier. That doesn't necessarily mean that they are not accurate and precise, but I don't think most Cartier models today have COSC certification, whatever that means. Nerdy Birdie says, hola, really enjoying the show. Hey, I appreciate you. Thank you for being here. Zan says, any of the advanced research pieces, Zan is talking about Patek Philippe advanced research, of course, are halo products, even if they do create technology that is moved into other pieces for years after, they themselves aren't icons. Absolutely. I mean, you can, yeah, let's put it like this. Again, for me, as much as I like the Aquanaut, and that's the Aquanaut is my favorite Patek sports piece. Well, between the Nautilus and Aquanaut, there's not much of a competition. I wouldn't say that 2014, I think it was, that 2014 piece with the Aquanaut Advanced Research, that's not an icon. You want an icon within the Aquanaut line? Perhaps 5164 travel time. Again, not my favorite watch, but I think Zan is contributing a very important point there. St. Peter says, did you see Waco's custom luminous crash? I believe Ronnie M has a custom one as well. Do you know any mortals who have custom Cartier crashes? Just a question. I know Way's luminous crash, which is basically a pièce unique. I don't think there's another Cartier crash with lume on the dial. And I think Ronnie Madavi's crash is custom as well. But that's a very specific segment of customer. Again, I don't want to, not that I assume anything about my own audience. I love everyone who spares some time and lends an ear and lends an eye to this show. But I'm not sure if we have the Wacos and Ronnie Madavis of the world listening necessarily. So I don't want to mislead my audience to place a call to Cartier tomorrow and ask for a custom crash. You know, I'm not sure if that's a request that they would accommodate from us mortals. All right. Love Cartier. We were just talking about about some Cartier models here in the Monaco Legend Group auction that just had a preview in Milan and is going to take place on October 22nd and 23rd in Monaco. I was very intrigued by this military issued Universal Genève diver, Paul Router sub type A. Not only because I had never seen a military issued Paul Router sub, I've seen many, unfortunately, many military issued Universal Genève watches. I will just say it wasn't to the American military. And in this case, you have a US Navy issued Paul Router sub type A from year 1960, specifically August 1960, that was withdrawn. I am suspecting that it was because someone actually already bought the watch. There could have been other things that possibly went wrong, but anyway, this is what I guess, right? Of course, there might have been some confusion about the provenance. Maybe the seller suddenly had a change of heart and didn't actually want to put it up for auction. But I think actually someone bought it. The estimates seem to be quite conservative. If you ask me, I think it could sell for much more and possibly found a buyer. That was a very interesting watch. You know, we have seen a lot of great pieces yesterday, a lot of nice precious metal Daytonas, some of them also gem sets, very hard to find pieces. There's this trilogy of 14, 9, 16s in platinum that are gem sets, basically mid-size Royal Oaks on a 37 millimeter mid-size Royal Oaks, executed in platinum and put on a bracelet on a leather band. Pavé diamonds on the dial and on the lugs, so to speak, or on the rest of the case, and you have a sapphire set octagonal bezel that echoes with the indices on the dial, which are also sapphire. And it's and all three are pieces that are retailed by Asprey of London. As you see, you have the blue and green and red. That's 72, 73, and 74. Lots 72, 73, 74. Estimates ranging from 50,000 euros to 100,000 euros. Very over the top and extra pieces, but certainly not something you see every day. Some more obscure but beautiful references that I really adore. This rectangular Audemars Piguet perpetual calendar, Edouard Piguet, limited edition, in yellow gold. Again, a very gorgeous piece, very wearable, great piece of design. And again, for the kind of watch it is, it has a very realistic estimate and not necessarily something that is exorbitant as many of the complicated Royal Oaks that you would find in the auction circuit today. That's a reference 25682, lot 71, with an estimate from 15,000 euros to 30,000 euros. Zan says, I know one not well-known person with a custom crash. That's great. So it is possible then. I don't know. I wouldn't even dream of it, right? As Ali said to his opponents, if you even dream of beating me, you come here and apologize. And I don't want to be put in a situation where I would have to go and apologize to our French overlords at Cartier. So I won't even dream of it, but good to know that it's possible to people who are mortal and who are not named Waco. And we love Waco, by the way, just to put it out there. The two-tone mid-sized Royal Oak, that actually, to me at least, is a very attractive watch and something that's really tripled, quadrupled in value in the last 3-4 years, with an estimate to $10,000 to $20,000. I think it will probably sell closer to that ceiling. I'm talking about 14790 SA. You can also find these in ST, meaning steel with the blue dial. Those are a little more expensive. That's not the kind of piece I guess you have to go to an auction for. But if you are really desperate to buy one, once every so often, there are deals, right? This is the kind of auction, actually, that a piece like this might get lost, might slip through the cracks. On the other hand, it might exactly be the kind of piece where, someone who bids on all these bigger pieces ends up overpaying because they want to go home with a new watch and they have lost out on everything else they have wanted. So buyer beware, but it is always worth keeping an eye on these, with the realization that they are riding that Royal Oak wave, right? These pieces were $5K or less just 5 years ago. Not to say that they will drop all the way down there, but they are supposed to come down quite significantly in short to midterm, I would say. There's a nice white gold 1803, the 4-digit day dates. Being in white gold on a full bracelet, it's already not the easiest thing to find, right? They're out there. They're not necessarily limited edition, but they're much more rare than yellow gold day dates from that period. Yet you have here an example with the Khanjar dial, the royal insignia of the Sultanate of Oman, and of course the sapphire indices with the baguette cut at 6 and 9 o'clock. I think it's a very, very beautiful, aesthetically compelling watch. You have this full white gold Datejust with a racing green dial. Lovely presentation with that suede, again, British racing green strap with it. Those are pretty rare. It's 30K to 60K estimates in euro. Lot number 90. Full gold Datejusts are a little more rare. Zan says he owns a couple hundred Cartiers though. Okay. Well, okay. All right. I'm not going to belabor the point, but that is a special customer of Cartier, right? They don't have to be horological celebrity necessarily. By the way, guys, both Wei and Roni are incredibly nice, very approachable, very humble people. Don't make a mistake about it. When I said they're not mortals, is because they have incredible collections, right? Some very special and rare watches that belong to a different segment. So they are the connections that go with those collections, and the pieces that they can order from Cartier might not be available to the average customer, even if you have the money. Right. So same thing goes, I guess, for Zan's friend, but again, I don't want to belabor the point too much, but thank you for sharing. Again, speaking of tonneau shaped watches, we were talking about Swiss and I were talking about Lot 95 Vacheron Constantin Royal Eagle chronograph. This is from the early 2000s. An interesting model, again, somehow resonating with the Frank Müller craze. The chronograph movement in it is the same Frédéric Piguet based caliber that is used in its contemporary overseas chronograph. The dial itself in this white version with the Claude Paris or pyramid design, as well as the snailing of the counters, it's actually extremely similar to, again, the overseas chronograph from the same time period with the big date as well. Interesting option, much more affordable option compared to the overseas. Those were already great deals anyways before the overseas became a mainstream product, the earlier generation of overseas chronographs. They're still relative value compared to the most recent generation. I kind of like them a little more at any rate, but the Royal Eagle is the real value proposition, especially if you find one in steel with the matching bracelet in good condition. Snap it up and it's basically 8K, even a little less. Here in pink gold, you have an estimate from $7,000 to $14,000. Lot 95, that's 49,145. Vacheron Constantin Royal Eagle chrono with the big dates, full set. It'll probably be a great deal and a very nice watch to take home for the lucky winner. Just to, again, intone a common refrain on this channel for the kind of value that complicated Jaeger LeCoultres represent in stainless steel. Along with IWC, I have to say, from a certain period, they are the democratizers of grand complications. And in this case, you have a master control Grand Réveil. It has an alarm, 24-hour indication, moon phase, full set here. And again, you have an estimate of 7,000 to 14,000 euro for lot 96. The Grand Réveil is usually a big case, right? I think 43 here. It's basically a fancier version of the Memovox. In addition to, of course, the calendar complications as well, including a leap year indicator as well as the 4-digit date there. I think this is a beautiful watch. Again, for someone who collects Jaeger LeCoultres, it can be a very good piece to own because it has, pardon me, it has a complication that has become part of the brand's mythology, right? When you think of alarm watches, basically you think of two brands and two names, right? You either think of Vulcain Cricket or Jaeger LeCoultres Memovox. So this is Memovox presented in the most extravagant manner, lot 96, with an estimate to 7 to 14K It's a Master Control Grand Reveil. This is an Octoroma, another True Blood Jarajanta design. In pink gold, jumping hours, right here, and tourbillon, papillon tourbillon, right in the middle. This was the case, basically, that Bulgari worked on, reiterated, and redesigned for what has become the flagship model today, which is the Octo Finissimo. This is the Octo Roma. By the way, again, I will kindly ask you to hit the like button. It really helps. Subscribe if you haven't. I'm here with Watch Talk every day, and I appreciate your support and presence. But what I would also really appreciate is for you to spread the word, share the link with others. I have accumulated quite a bit of content over the years. So if you could possibly, help spread the word, help me reach different kinds of people, and help me get to 1,000 subscribers so I can actually get the channel monetized and get something in return for my time and efforts, I would appreciate that. So that's an important goal for the channel, and it's coming. The moment is almost there. We are 75% through. Yes, I will also post the links if you would like to contribute before that happens, before I get monetized. You have a few options already. You can become a subscriber on Patreon, which will be a great commitment to increase the quality and quantity of content on this channel. It will simply help me dedicate more time to it. So I would appreciate that. The link is there. My primary point of contact is Lord Hellespont V at gmail.com. That's Lord Hellespont V at gmail.com. That's also for PayPal. So if you want to suggest a dedicated live stream or any kind of customized content, you can easily reach me through there, and I'm sure we can work something out. I also have a Cash App, and that's $LHVVV, $LHVVV. Yeah, I love the balance of that dial, by the way. I mean, the four sub-dial designed for a perpetual calendar or calendar chronograph, or even in this case, triple calendar slash alarm watch is very, very appealing to me. It's very compelling. Again, this is a nice hunk of steel, right? Be mindful of that, but it is also a very nice sounding alarm. JLC's executions of the Memovox and of Grand Reveil are always very, very pleasant, and it can actually wake you up. I love this watch. I don't know if it's the salmon dial. I don't know if it is the old school design of these straight end links with beads of rice bracelets. I don't know. I simply adore this watch. I think it's a beautiful case design, an interesting execution of the oyster, and a very unique Rolex. That's a 3716 Lot 102. The estimate is somewhere between 10 to 20K. 1943, and it's a very small watch for modern standards, 32 millimeters. But I think, especially 34 millimeter watches, 33, 34, I think they are claiming their place. I'm not saying they will ever come back so strong that they will take over the mainstream, but the way that people have started collecting watches and having these expansive collections where they have all these different kinds of genres and types and functions of watches. One blind spot that remains in many a collector's watch box is that elegant, discreet, and minuscule even dress watch, and that is the next frontier. I think that is a trend that will catch on at a muted level, right? I'm not saying that dress watches will become mainstream in any way at 34 millimeters and perhaps slightly below, but they are becoming more popular than they were in the last three and a half decades. You have a platinum mid-sized Nautilus that must weigh a ton, with those perfectly cut diamonds, brilliant diamonds as indices. Lots 103, 100,000 to 200,000 euros. You have the double crown world time. This was the reference that followed 1415 heure universelle, 2523. This is the generation before the pusher operated cities ring. In this case, the ring is rotated by the crown at 9 o'clock. I think it's a beautiful and very balanced design. Not that I don't enjoy the pusher operation and the particular appeal of that asymmetric design. Don't take me wrong, but I find this very unique, and the angles of this case are to me very appealing. Of course, they have just found an incredible example that has even that beautiful brushed grain of the case band and sides of the lugs present. It is the Tiffany & Co. double signed. It is the one with the tulip, our hand. I will insist on calling that the tulip because that's what exactly it looks like. Sometimes people say fleur de lis, but the fleur de lis doesn't look like that to me. But I won't insist. Beautiful, balanced, almost perfectly preserved watch. Tiffany double signature, of course, puts it into the stratosphere. Lot 104, Patek Philippe World Time 2523/1, 1.8 million to 3 million euros of estimated value. Speaking of small and ultra thin dress watches, here's another 32 millimeter piece with that mosaic, quasi integrated bracelet, ultra thin movement. Right, it's kind of like a waffle bracelet, but in pure white gold, hand wound movement. I think this is also a beautiful watch. 106 ultra slim Calatrava style Audemars Piguet on a full white gold bracelet. The estimate is 4 to 8 €1,000. Again, 32 millimeter dress watch, but something unique, something different. The problem, again, with these kinds of bracelets, watches by Vacheron Constantin, by Patek Philippe, by Audemars Piguet from the time period is they can be quite short. So if you have a big wrist, and if the particular example that you're chasing after doesn't fit your wrist, they're really not for you. But if the bracelet is large enough, is long enough for you, and it is your style, some great deals to be found in that particular category, in that particular segment. I adore this piece, the Daniel Roth Lot 112. I know it's a little bit out there, but I am a huge fan of the so-called ellipsocurvex case. Here, of course, it's executed by doing the most from the pyramid decoration of the upper half to the Breguet frosting of the hour ring, and of course every other circular detail. The diamonds on the bezel and the lugs, the rubies around the tourbillon. It's yeah, this particular way of showing the seconds. It's a watch that is a flex on so many different levels. That is hard to add much to that. This is lot 112, Daniel Roth, numero uno, 8-day double face tourbillon wristwatch in white gold. And this is the calendar, i.e. really just the date. And this is the power reserve, of course, 8-day. And this is where you lift, I think, the case to check the case back. Yeah, then again, you know, even the tang buckle is set with diamonds. The carriage itself has this cobblestone-like decoration. It's so over the top that I don't know. I simply adore it. Hard to add anything more to that. It's such an obnoxious watch. It's so bad that it's good. It's so wrong that it's right. You have the Patek Philippe Ellipse Beta 21. This is the version of the Ellipse with the quartz movement. So it has basically the shape of the ellipse for the dial, but has a more rectangular and stepped case. I don't really like this watch. In fact, I have said that it's only the buckle that I really love, which is something that goes with the ellipse design. But I know that there are many, well, there's an emergent kind of collector that goes for unusual case shapes, uncommon designs, usually from a particular time period, you know, that being the later part of the 70s when the quartz crisis really sinks in, and maybe the 80s as well, where you have these quartz operated models released by some of the big four. They have their particular niche. They have their particular kind of collector. So they do belong here. Number 113, Patek Philippe Ellipse Beta 21. 3603, 18,000 to 35,000 estimated value. We have looked at the 130, the classically sized hand-wound chronograph before Patek adopted the Lemania CH27 base. This has a movement that is built upon the Valjoux 13. These are very, very unique, very beautiful watches, but again, perhaps too small for most modern taste. It is what it is. This is the asymmetric tank, right? Limited edition of hundreds, between 40 to 80,000. It has that beautiful Cartier C/wishbone tank buckle, of course, with it. I like that as an object. Full set. And this is from year 2020, so it's a more recent limited edition. Still quite desirable. 116 tank asymétrique, 40 to 80,000. You have the 10-day tourbillon version of the gondola, that's where you have the tourbillon only visible from the case back. Gorgeous piece. Again, the rubies and the gold chaton, the traditional Côte de Genève on the bridges, the tourbillon occupying obviously the centerpiece of the movement, which is formed and built for the case. I am like, that's one of my pet peeves, when a non-round shaped watch has a round movement. Speaking of Calatravas, again, this is a reference 438. This is a watch that's really small. I think it was 28 millimeters, 6 to 12K in terms of estimated value, lot 124. But the watch itself is aesthetically very pleasing, dress watch from the 40s, very well preserved. The way that the Breguet numerals on the dial have patinated in a distinct way from the stainless steel of the case, I think is in itself a thing of beauty. I'm gonna, so that we have time, I'm gonna focus on unique pieces, but of course you have here the first reference of the Lange 1 Zeitzone, the time zone version of the Lange 1, larger case, is missing a few things from the most recent version, such as the daylight adjustment, but beautiful in platinum. That was lot 123 for Lange 1 time zone. You have a very unique Patek Philippe hand-wound chronograph with those wire lugs and an officer's case back. We have examined it yesterday with a pulsometer around the dial, sector dial design. Great piece, very unique, and $250,000 to $500,000 estimated value. You have Tank Américain, again, beautiful piece, 1726, white gold with the matching bracelet. Excuse me. And that has an estimated value of 6 to 12. You have again a classic Calatrava reference, right? The first serially produced Calatrava in so many ways. Reference 96 in lot 138 in stainless steel, 9 to 18,000. Again, the reason that these are uh, relatively cheap is because they're 32 millimeters, but they're really beautiful pieces. This is in a relatively well preserved condition. Um, the dial is evenly patinated, if not impeccable. So worth taking a second look, certainly if you're interested in stainless steel Calatravas and don't necessarily mind the smaller size. Again, another example of Rolex gem setting 116759 with contrasting sapphires and diamonds for the rotating bezel and diamonds on the lugs. That's 139, 100,000 to 200,000 euros. Beautiful 40s Tissot sector dial with a snail dial with the telemeter in the middle as well, in addition to the tachymeter. Beautifully balanced, very unique design that we mistook initially for a monopusher, but it's really the start stop right here in a single pusher, and the reset is integrated into the crown. I think it's a beautiful piece of design. Very nicely patinated dial that has a certain charm and is not restored, which is, I think, the most important point. This is a beautiful find, if you ask me. There's a reason that Tissot still draws inspiration from pieces like that. They just released something that has a similar vibe. Lot 144, 5 to 10K in euro. A nice stainless steel chronograph from 1940s in a very respectable size for the time, which is 38 millimeters. You have a flat 4 50th anniversary Rolex Submariner at 148, full set 15 to 30K. You have at 154 a 6542 GMT Master with the bakelite bezel, small red arrow. The estimate is $60 to $120,000. You have a pink on pink Patek Philippe chronograph pocket watch from 1941. Extremely well preserved. Very elegant. Beautiful piece. That's 20 to 40,000, 47 millimeter, sizable little thing. You have gorgeous Universal Genève tri-compacts with the waterproof case, if I'm not mistaken, right? The screw down case back. I think the Italians nicknamed this case Spillino because of the small chronograph pushers. It's a nice example. Very fat case that has seen some polish, but nothing excessive, nothing too disruptive. Again, the virtue is that the dial is not restored. I love it. I mean, for a 50s tri-compacts, which I think it is, right? No, it's actually 60s. I think it's a very nice piece. It should be around 36 millimeter, 35 millimeter. Triple calendar chronograph, very neat. If you're looking for an impeccable example, this is not it. But for everyone else who likes the tri-compacts and wants something perhaps slightly more accessible than something like a Clapton or an impeccable example from the 40s and 50s, this can be a great consolation prize. My heart is in the 40s models with that cheeky moon phase, but the Spillino cases with the screw down case back is a great piece too. This has the caliber 281, the so-called in-house Universal Genève calibers, produced seemingly by Martel. That was lot 160. You have an all-in-one reverso set, retailed by Astra Torino. 6 pieces in one box. Reverso perpetual calendar, reverso tourbillon. What else do we have there? Reverso retrograde chronograph, reverso répétition minute, géographique. What else? And the 60th anniversary edition, 60e. So what a fantastic collector's edition. What a fantastic presentation. Yeah, I don't know, if it finds the right buyer, hey, this would be a bargain. If it's engulfed in a bidding war, who knows where it goes, but that's lot 161, 90,000 to 180. Mookie says, thoughts on beach style Daytonas overall? I love them. Did you see it on my Instagram that I posted the Meadow Soprano with Daytona Beach in pink dials? So this is Jamie Lynn Siegler, who wears stainless steel Daytona in her off-duty look, so to speak, and this is This is Meadow Soprano. I think this was from season 4, probably, wearing the pink version, with that lizard skin leather strap, the pink mother of pearl dial, very over the top, but I just love it. These were 116520. Came with an entire matching set where you had the same lizard skin in the same color on the Rolex box and even the card case and everything. It was just amazing. Well, it's 6 is actually a great number. It means you have one for every weekday, and everything else, one on the wrist and the rest in the box, basically. And you can, great actor roll and watch. Yeah, I loved Meadow. I'm more of when it comes to my aesthetic tastes, I'm more of a Dr. Melfi kind of guy, but hey, everyone loves Meadow. This is a beautiful rattrapante by a now extinct manufacturer. Fantastic case, again, well patinated, but also well preserved and unrestored dial. There's even an appeal in that aquamarine color of the tachymeter on the outside. Very well balanced in terms of the size of those two registers and the crown, where you have the split second function, of course. Very beautiful and stylized case with the lugs. The case itself is extremely well preserved with all the gold hallmarks, crisp and clear. So is the serial number, by the way. A very nice piece. 144, 7 to 14,000 euros. 37 again for 1940s. It's a very respectable case size, very wearable. Great piece. Yellow gold with what looks like a dial that has aged into like a darker champagne shade or even pink. I don't want to rush too much, but I want to address what Mookie looked at 172, which is, yeah, this is part of the beach collection in a way. I love the one that comes with the matching lizard skin strap. I find, I mean, they're great too, and in most standard dials with those oversized Arabic numerals, so-called racing dials, and on a leather strap, they present some of the greatest values in on the secondary market when it comes to the Daytona. These unique dials are, of course, absolute premium. 172 is just like that, 50 to 100K. But even on full bracelet, if you find like, you know, one of the black or black dial with the full white gold bracelet, that's still a bargain. That should be, I want to say, yeah, 11551, I think. That should be the reference, and there's still a decent deal among, you know, in the realm of Daytonas. You have a white gold Daytona on a leather band at 173. That's 50 to $100,000 with the meteorite dial. You have a very unique chronograph by Mido at 183, valued from 5 to 10K in euros, 35 millimeters from 1940s. As you see, it's very kind of a unique solution to the chronograph problem. And one of the endearing aspects of this chronograph is, of course, much like the so-called tasti tondi, it has those decorated pushers. The case is extremely well preserved. The dial is evenly patinated. You have something unique coming on its period correct bracelet, which looks like it's blown to bits, but it just has a lot of charm, you know, with those straight lugs and everything. Has that periods waterproof case. Could be an interesting piece for the right buyer again. The Royal Oak chronograph 25960 in white gold with a salmon dial. Very attractive again. Absolutely crazy pricing, of course. That's how they go, unfortunately. 100,000 to 200,000. That was 192. You have a very nice watch here. The exotic dial, Rolex Daytona, the 6262, coming from a private collection, apparently. Lot 193, the estimate is 140,000 to 280. There it is. Okay, 196. That's the Pasha Perpetual Calendar #1 in full platinum. The estimate is 125 to 250. And apparently it comes with an additional Cartier bracelet with the platinum buckle as well. What a watch, what a set. 125 to 250. It's an incredible, incredible piece. Oh, okay. All right. It's not, I was wondering why it's not stratospheric. I'm just reading the lot now. Apparently the bracelet is white gold, which is still luxurious, but not as expensive as a platinum bracelet would be. And so is the déployant buckle, as you can see. It's not 950, 750 is the 18 karat white gold. So, I mean, still extremely appealing piece. But that somehow explains why the ceiling is at $250,000 and not $500,000 for lot 196, which is a #1 piece, very rare Pasha Perpetual Calendar, designed, of course, by none other than Gerard Jantin. All right, I want to present one more watch in some kind of detail and then take my break for half an hour and then come back with the professor. I'm trying to choose. I think I'll go back to the gold exotic dial Daytona. Beautiful Paul Newman. You see that gold riveted bracelet. The John Player Special, executed in full 18 karat gold. Beautiful mix of colors. The Daytona writing in gold. The snailing on the subdials with the Art Deco numerals. It just shines. 6264 from 1970. Lot 230 is estimated to go for €1 million to €2 million, and it might in fact go beyond that. That was 230. I will be back with you in half an hour. I will send you the link now for the next show, which is some watch market talk with the professor, with the famous professor. And I want to invite you to that show. I will take a quick break for now. What's the link? I can't find my link. Yes, the Late Late Show. There it is. I'll be back, in fact, in less than 25 minutes, it turns out. Watch market talk with El Profesor. Please hit the like button on your way out. There's the link for you. Subscribe if you haven't. I see a lot of new people jumping in. You are absolutely welcome. This is your home. I'm here with Pure Watch Talk on a daily basis, pulling a double shift today. I'll take a short break now. We'll be back with you. Please spread the word, share the link with everyone. I love you all. I will see you in a little bit. Help me get to 1,000 subscribers and get this platform monetized so I can get a little bit for my efforts, for my time. And if you want to help me out before then, you have a few ways to contribute, and I'm gonna share those links right here with you. And Patreon, PayPal, Cash App, if you would like to. And that's it for now. I am waiting for you on the other side. Muki, I'm a huge fan. I'm a huge fan of the 116509. You know, the any precious metal racing dial, Arabic numeral dial, Daytona from that period on a full bracelet or on a leather strap. I absolutely adore. I think those leather strap precious material Daytonas should really come back. I think there is a gap there because Daytona has become the Rolex flagship, and it is the universal. It is a watch that can be worn in so many different ways. It is a watch that can go in so many different directions. You have the full bracelet versions, which everyone loves in whatever metal they can get their hands on. The Oyster Flex, I find it very innovative and very cool in this way that is kind of a cognitive dissonance, you know, precious metal, rubber bracelets. It's a nice contrast, visually, aesthetically, and in terms of the feeling. But I really think they, you know, for a classic chronograph, you need the leather strap as well. You need to have it as an option, like that they offer right out of the box. All right. I'm coming back in 20 minutes. Everyone, again, please click the link above for the Late Late Show with the professor. And I'll be back with you there. We'll talk very, very soon. Take care, everyone. Please upvote on your way out.